I'm going to get us started on this episode of Neon City Gaming Radio because I am super excited because Space Marine 2 is coming out very shortly. In fact, by the time I get this edited and put up, it's probably already come out. But specifically, Dark Frost. Did you play Space Marine 1?
I did not.
Okay, so I have to tell you, Space Marine 1, hell of a game. It was action-packed, very much, it exemplified those like 360 action shooter hack and slash type games. Made you really feel like a Space Marine, and it was beloved by the Warhammer 40k community because it honored the lore and like what Warhammer 40k fans thought that like it would be like to play as a Space Marine. And it was just a really good game, really cool story. What I wanted to do is, because I'm so excited about Space Marine 2 coming out, I really want you to play it with me. I need to get you ready for that. And for anyone else who wants to know what the heck's going on with Space Marine, I'm very much into Warhammer 40k. I've got my own armies. I have a Space Marine army, a couple of Space Marine armies. And so what I thought it would be really cool to introduce everyone to just a primer going into Space Marine 2, even if you haven't played Space Marine 1, or even if you don't know what a Space Marine is. I'm Flowdrive, this is Dark Frost, and we are going to be looking at the Emperor's Angel.
Those who know no fear, the Space Marines.
I know you know something about 40k because you were a big fan of Dawn of War, weren't you?
Yeah, I was, that's pretty much my introduction to the franchise as a whole, was that game, because I didn't know anything about it beforehand, and when Dawn of War came out, being a big RTS guy, I jumped on it, and then I'm still a casual fan, like, I play the video games, I don't play the minis, and I don't read the books or anything like that. So my introduction was the Blood Ravens, as they were called in that game.
The Blood Raven, the Space Marine chapter in Dawn of War 1, 2, and 3, which, for those you don't know, was an older RTS game that was also beloved by the community. Did a really good job. Well, at least Dawn of War 1 was. Yeah, the Blood Ravens, actually, that was a Space Marine chapter that was created for that game series. So, Dark Frost, you've played Dawn of War. So you at least know what a Space Marine is, or at least what they kind of look like. In your own words, how would you describe a Space Marine?
Just a big hulking dude in a fully encased armor suit. The ones that you see on all the pictures and everything with the big bolter gun.
And I think that's what
the default 40k character, I guess.
The default 40k. Well, they're definitely the poster children for Warhammer 40k, mainly because they're marketable. So Space Marine, the original video game, really beloved by the community, Warhammer 40k community, and it's just a really decent action game. It follows Captain Titus of the Ultramarine chapter, because the blue boys got to be everywhere. You would really like the color scheme, blue and gold for the Ultramarines.
I actually don't like it.
Oh, you don't like the Ultramarine color scheme? I thought Dark Frost was all about that blue.
Yeah, good blue. It's not a good hue of blue. That's like a sky blue. That's not a... Nah, boring. And then the blue and gold, that's been done.
So, not a fan of the Ultramarines.
They're the most boring looking chapter. They're just a blank blue with the gold outline and then the white horseshoe like icon kind of thing. Where everyone else
is
the like...
symbol of Ultramar, thank you very much. Someone's not welcome on McCrag anymore.
Well, I didn't want to be there, so...
A quick primer for those who never played Space Marine 1. We're going to get started on the Forge world of Graia. So that's where the Space Marine 1 takes place. The orcs, led by Grimskull, have taken over the Forge world Graia. Now, Forge world has a crap ton of Imperium weapons on it. That is an entire planet dedicated to just pumping out big bang. The main character is a captain, specifically captain of the Second Company, Titus, Demetrius Titus of the Ultramarine chapter. The three main characters are him, a sergeant, or just a random sergeant that's with him named Sidonis, and then Leandros, who is a tactical marine, just like a rank and file Ultramarine. But to people who know the lore and play the game, Leandros is a traitor, a horrible Space Marine, and doesn't deserve to wear the Ultramarine.
Why do you say that?
Well, because let me tell you about the Codex Astartes. So the Codex Astartes is a book. Think of it as like the Space Marine Bible as it pertains to the Ultramarines. It's supposed to pertain to all Space Marine chapters because it was written by Roboute Guilliman, who is the Primarch of the Ultramarines. The Ultramarines kind of hold it in a higher regard than others. While others look at the book and go,
Oh wow, this has got some good stuff in it, and you know what, we might come to the table every now and again.
the Ultramarines are all about that book and doing things by the book. Leandros is in possession of the Codex Astartes so far up his...
Bad words.
There might already be fan art
sure there
out
is.
there.
I'm sure there is. Someone has drawn Leandros with the Codex Astartes being inserted up his backside by Marneus Calgar. So it's those three Ultramarines. That's it. Those three are the only ones who break blockade, and they make landfall on this forge world called Graia. On Graia, the reason it's so special is that it makes Titans. Now, Titans are... Imagine a mech from MechWarrior, but like way bigger. Like walking skyscrapers with cannons the size of main streets.
And like medieval castle.
Yes, so a medieval castle. Imagine a medieval castle, but the towers are volcano cannons. So Graia has these Titans. And that's why they're not, hey, it's swarming with orcs. Why can't we just nuke the planet? Because there are Titans on there. And Titans win wars. And so they're like, hey, Ultramarines, we could really use some help down here. So they send Butt Clencher Leandros and his captain and sergeant, Sidonis and Titus.
So the first one, the main bad guys are the orcs?
The orcs.
Okay.
They're swarming with orcs. They're all led by this big orc named Grimskull. And I really like Grimskull because he reminds me of one of my favorite orcs, Ghazghkull. And Ghazghkull is a really cool orc model. I almost started an orc army just because of how cool Ghazghkull looks. So, orcs swarm Graia. Space Marines send you three to help the Imperial Guard that's on planet drive off the orcs and specifically secure a Warlord class Titan, which is under threat. Now, these orcs come in, led by Grimskull, and they're just, like, tearing through stuff, but they do something that orcs don't normally do. Instead of just destroying defenses, they're capturing them and then turning them on the Space Marines and reinforcements for the Imperial Guard. For the first part of the game, you and Sidonis and Leandros have to fight your way to an orbital cannon, capture it, and then in a really cool level, you're inside the defense cannon. And this orbital cannon is huge. It is multiple levels of the game. And you end up planting an explosive on one of the shells, these massive shells that they fire. And you have to load it into the chain to get it loaded into the cannon to detonate it while it's in the breach. And it's just this huge, massive mechanism, and they did a really good job. The design on that game is just fantastic. After you blow up the cannon, the orbital cannon, then you learn that there's an Inquisitor on the planet. The Inquisitor Drogon sends out a distress signal that's like, hey, I've got something super important. This is really important to the Imperium. Come save my ass. My ass is important to the Imperium, but my ass isn't the thing that you technically need to save, but I'll have it on me. So come save my ass. So Inquisitor Drogon has a weapon that can kill all of the orcs on Graia all at once in one shot. But it takes some kind of MacGuffin power source, right? Bright, shiny light. Got to go get the bright, shiny light. So you, the Inquisitor, fight your way with your team to get this bright, shiny light. You go in there, and Grimskull, the big orc dude, is like, the
Space Marine wants his shiny gubbins. If he wants it, I want it too. Give me the Sparky.
And so you get into a fight with Grimskull, but you end up taking the power source. In the process, it gets knocked open, and Titus has to pick it up with his bare hand. And it's at that point the Inquisitor's like, whoa, you just manhandled pure warp energy That's the stuff of chaos. How did you do that?
Chaos.
And Titus is like, I don't know. I just love the color blue, and I'm here to serve the Emperor. Dirk puts it on his belt. Let's get this thing to the weapon. The entire time,
I'm wearing a metal suit. Okay, it's a glove.
Yeah, it's a power armor. All right, it's Mark 8. I think he's wearing. Entire time, they're huffing it with this chaos power source to the big weapon. Leandros, the dude with the Codex Astartes rammed firmly up his rear, is like, oh, I don't like this. Chaos Astartes does not support this action. Well, Captain Titus, how you can't touch chaos? That's not good. And the entire time, the other guy is the Sergeant Sidonus, and Sidonus is like, shut your ass up, boy. I've been doing this shit longer than you've been alive. I trust Captain Titus with my life. Never mind the fact that Sidonus is like, I forgot to take a look, but Sidonus looks much older than Titus does. But Titus has only 2 service studs. I don't know if you've seen promotional material. The bolts on the Space Marine skull, or like on his forehead, for every one of those he has, it's about 100 years of service. So Titus has been an Ultramarine for 200 years.
Isn't Titus? No, I thought the name of the big honcho from Dawn of War was the name Titus, and I think he had 2 bolts in his head or whatever.
The Bloodraven?
Yeah,
Captain?
the captain of
No,
the Bloodraven.
I'm pretty sure his name was Angelo? Gabriel Angelos.
Oh, Gabriel. Okay. I was way off.
I was way off.
You got the magical Sparky MacGuffin. You've got Leandros. You've got Sidonus, and you've got Drogon. We've got to get to this weapon. We've got to get to this weapon. And the first game was so cool because you got progressively better weapons as you played through. Nothing felt better than popping orc heads with headshots. Really good game feedback. And the coolest way to regenerate health. Before Doom gave you ammo back on glory kills and things of that nature, you meleeed orcs down, and then you stun them, and you do executions, and executions heals you. Captain Titus gets this the Sparky to the weapon. You pop it into the weapon, and lo and behold, it's not a weapon. It is a portal. It opens up a portal, and chaos, this chaos demons come pouring in. Khorne bloodletters, which are these demons with swords, led by, I think his name is Numeroth, a Chaos Space Marine in Terminator armor. And he's like, ha! Drogon's been working for me the entire time. But he wasn't technically a traitor because he's been dead the entire time. And he's just, convenient. He's been just puppeteering Numeroth around. And it's really nice because when you fire off the weapon, Grimskull's right there, and he gets knocked over, right? He gets up, and he's like, oh, Space Marine, that's supposed to hurt me? That didn't even tickle. Demons show up. Demons jump on Grimskull. He's fighting them off. They go over a cliff. Numeroth waltzes out of his portal and goes, oh, demon-y stuff. Monologue. Evil plan, I'm the best. And then Grimskull climbs back up, fights Numeroth. Numeroth pushes him back off the cliff, and then Grimskull goes, no, you're coming with me. Yoink, and they both go over the cliff. Now that the portal's open, and you're like, oh shit, Drogon just, tricked us into opening this portal, and it's sustained by this weapon that we fired off. Woe is us and our mental capacity to understand multi-level deceit. And so they're like, how are we going to close this portal? And so Titus is like, didn't we come down here to protect a Titan? And so they're like, yeah, we'll use the Titan. And it's cannon. We'll supercharge it with this core warp spark thingy. And then we'll just blow that thing to pieces and close the portal.
Before you tell me how it ends, please, and this is how I want to imagine it ending, because this would be the dumbest thing ever. And but they get the Titan out, they start firing at the thing to close it, but for some reason it's not working. So they're like, "Screw this! There's only one thing left," and they shove the entire Titan through the fucking hole to clog it up or whatever.
Plug it with the that's what would happen if you were playing as an orc. An orc would just be like, "Big hole in the sky, boss. Let's plug it with the Gargant." So no, now you have to go back to the Titan, and this is some of the coolest stuff when you're playing this. You go in, you're fighting your way through Chaos Marines with like heavy plasma incinerators that are just launching, lobbing plasma at you. You've got cultists running around. You start off with a chain sword. You go up to like a power sword and then a power axe. You can get a power hammer.
On the same level, or this is over the game?
Over the course of the game. But at the end of towards the end of the game, you can switch out weapons. Like if you prefer chainsword over the power axe.
Is this like in the middle of missions you can switch out, or it's like you change your loadout between missions?
So in this game, you after every so many kill rooms, there are ammo stockpiles and weapon stockpiles you can switch out. It's from that era of video games. Like you'll get through a couple of rooms and you'll notice blue sparkly ammo crates with like weapons laying around you can switch out.
Okay, so it's not like you get to choose what you want. It's just whatever happens to be in that pile. Like, oh,
Yeah,
I found
but-
a heavy machine gun, you know.
Yeah, but a lot of the times there are like multiple crates, or they'll be on the wall. And they'll be like, do you want the Stalker bolt rifle, which is a sniper rifle, or do you want the laser cannon? And it is basically a giant sniper laser cannon. Or do you want the melt-a-gun?
And does it
Melt
become your
your
main
face off,
weapon
shatter.
until you find the next one of those, or until it runs out
No,
of
so
ammo?
you've always
and
got
then
you've always got 4 slots. You can have like a grenade launcher type thing, or a melt-a-gun. You could have a plasma gun, a laser cannon, or a stalker bolt rifle, or you could have a pistol. And then some of the upgrades are permanent. So your bolt pistol, upgrades to a plasma pistol. Now you just have the plasma pistol. It's just better in every way. And then your regular bolter, you get Kraken rounds for it, and becomes a Kraken bolter later on, which just means it's better in every way. It hits harder, better armor penetration. In the 40k universe, there are frag grenades and there are crack grenades. Crack grenades do high damage to one target. Frag grenades does mediocre damage to a wide area. So think cracking armor. That's what you get the crack from.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was. Okay.
So lots of just cool weapons. You're blasting your way through to the Titan. One of the fights happens on the Titan as it's walking out of the hangar to get into a firing position. And it's just taking these massive steps. You're fighting these flying plague spewer things, and it's fantastic.
Same kind of like, not exactly 1-to-1, but like, you remember Armored Core 6? That giant walking mech that you fight when you're having to fight around his legs, and then you get on his back. And then
the mining platform.
Yeah. It's kind of like that, where it's just like, this giant. You're fighting on this giant thing, just going, doing its.
Yeah,
motions.
as it's going forward, you get into position, you fight off the enemies. It fires off its volcano cannon. Boom, takes out the spire. It closes the rift, but the game's not over because you're gonna find Numeroth and you're gonna kill that guy. And so, on your way to the spire, you hand off the Sparky MacGuffin to Sidonis, the one Marine who's had your back. In hindsight, you probably should have handed that over to Leandros, because Sidonis ends up getting jacked by Numeroth, the Chaos dude, who just lightning claws him through the back, kills him, and takes the MacGuffin. He's like, I'm going to use this to turn into a Demon Lord. That sounds really cool. Let's go do that. Titus is like, nah, I ain't about that. Goes up the tower. A lot more fighting. You fight Numeroth in one of the most annoying boss fights in a video game I've played in a while. But it's one of those, you can't actually touch the boss because he's protected, and he just sends waves of enemies at you that get progressively harder.
Oh, yeah, I hate those.
So you take him off, and then you do, because I think a lot of the devs on this were old God of War devs, a real-time, or what are they called? Where you press the buttons.
Oh, quick time event?
Quick time event. There's a quick time event ball. You knock him off the spire that's like 400 miles high, and you have a fist fight all the way down. Although I will say, one of the coolest ways to finish off a boss in a video game, you grab Numeroth's head. He's half demon prince at this point, and you just crush his skull like a melon. And then,
nice. I mean, that if this was God of War devs beforehand, that tracks right there.
yeah, it tracks. But I really like Space Marine 1. It was really cool. It had orcs, it had chaos, and Astra Militarum, the Imperial Guard. Really cool. You got to say it. You see like Leman Russes, which are their tanks. You got to see Hydras, their artillery. Just they did a really good atmosphere on Graia, the Forge world. There's constantly this VA system or PA system that's playing like all praise to the Omnissiah. Make sure you show up for work or you will be killed, or ground up into like paste for the next day's meal. It's really great. They just nailed the atmosphere. And then for 13 years, nothing. That was like the best Warhammer 40k game we had for ages. Because at the end of Space Marine 1, Leandros, that's the guy who's like, Codex Astartes, Codex Astartes. Titus, you can't touch that. You touched that. Now you're tainted by the warp, and I don't want to get my fingers dirty. I need nappies. Because you're dirty. You're a dirty little captain now. He calls the Inquisition. Imperial Inquisitors show up and go, hey, we heard you've been messing with some chaos stuff. And in a really weird twist, he shows up with Black Templars, which is a Space Marine chapter known for its distrust of the Imperial Inquisition. But skipping over that.
Is that an Easter egg, or is that like something like a nod to something, or is that just like,
so here's the thing.
These are cool, so we want to put them together in this game?
Well, so a lot of other chapters show up. I say a lot of other chapters. A lot of other Space Marines show up towards the end of the game. That's one of the things. So one of the chapters that show up, the first other chapter of Space Marines you see, are Blood Ravens, which are really cool because they haven't been seen since Dawn of War. They're a canon chapter now, but they were created for Dawn of War. Dope. And so you're running down, and there's this huge bridge you have to travel across. There's just bolter fire and plasmas and missiles and melta and everything going off on this bridge. You see a Blood Raven, and he's like, yo, let's ride. And Titus is like, cool. And you go across this bridge, and all these Ultramarine drop pods start landing, and other Ultramarines hop out. Other Blood Ravens come out under the bridge, and it's just a firefight push through all these Chaos forces, and it's really cool. Right? They really nailed that fantasy. And at the end, the Black Templars show up, and with the Inquisitor's like, you got to come with us. And here's the important part. Here's the only thing that you need going into Space Marine 2 as far as the narrative is. Captain Titus of the Ultramarine 2nd Company was taken by the Inquisition and the Black Templars, and then no information. Space Marine 2. Captain Titus is now Lieutenant Titus, so he's been demoted. You know this in the very first trailer that they showed. He's wearing the Ultramarine helmet that designates a lieutenant, which is the red stripe with the white. But more importantly than his new rank, he is now a Primaris Marine. For those of you not into the Warhammer community, because Primaris have their own contention, they're basically bigger, slightly better Space Marines.
Is it like a promotion thing where it's like, hey, you did a lot of cool shit, so we're gonna let you, we're gonna do some more gene therapy on you and make you more awesome? Or is it just like a retcon thing where it's like, hey, these characters stood out a lot in this lore, we needed to make them a little bit more badass than the average Marine?
So in the real world, it was, hey, we want Space Marines to be bigger, and we want their stat sheet to be a little bit better. And also we need a new design. So they're like, Primaris Marines. So Rabute Guilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines, is back in the picture. And so he's like, hey, we have all of these Space Marine 2.0s that we had made from scratch. And they're called the Primaris Marines. And they're slightly better than Space Marines, slightly bigger, with newer, cooler armor. Now with Karate Chop action. And please buy our pack of 5. Sergeant and 4 Intercessors, $50. In universe, they are completely a different breed of Space Marines. Now, Firstborn Space Marines, the Space Marines that have existed all the way up to the Primaris, become Primaris.
you're just saying things now, and I'm just like,
The proper noun and the proper noun is now a proper noun.
exactly.
Titus comes back in Space Marine 2, and he is a lieutenant, so he's been demoted, and he is now a Primaris. So he has crossed the Rubicon Primaris.
I mean, it's technically an upgrade though, because now he's the new super soldier instead of the old one. Like,
Yeah.
sure, he's ranked lower, but I mean, in these games, does rank really even matter half the time? Because they're like, we slap on a rank, and then it matters for the first part of it, but then like all the hero stuff happens, and it's like we don't really, you know.
So being a captain, a Space Marine captain, is a big deal because you're usually running an entire company. And Space Marine chapters usually only have like 10 companies. But for video game and narrative purposes, he's a lieutenant now. But the most interesting thing is in some of the new trailers, you find out what he's been up to after he got taken by the Black Templars and the Inquisition. And that is they put Titus in the Death Watch.
I was gonna say, I assume it's like some CSI training, or like he was, or now that you say Death Watch, what, he was a bad boy, so they sent him to the wall to face off against White Walkers.
So you joke, but it actually
Like
helps you out. It actually helps you out if you don't know all that much about this, like lore and things of that nature.
Gotcha.
And that
Well, then I'm in good company then.
Yeah. So they sent Titus to the Death Watch, which is they fight against the Xenos threat, aliens. They are kind of like special forces. Death Watch operate in kill teams. Each person has like specialized weapons that they use. They have specialized ammunition. They're really cool on the tabletop, or at least they were until they lost their codex, and now they're just Imperial agents. So he's been in the Death Watch. Okay, here's how the Death Watch work. So they're usually, Space Marines are tithed, or donated, basically, seconded to the Death Watch to serve until they die. Okay? And the Death Watch wears all black. They usually have this left pauldron that has a bunch of rights like etched into it and things of that nature.
And they're different from the Black Space Marines that you mentioned earlier, right?
Yeah, completely different than the Black Templars.
Okay.
And then usually on their right shoulder, they will have the pauldron of the chapter that they came from. So if they came from the Sides of the Emperor, they'll have the Sides of the Emperor color and insignia on their right shoulder. If they come from the Ultramarines, they'll have blue with the Ultramarine symbol. All right? In the promotional material they've released, it's just like one like 2-second glimpse you get of Titus in his Death Watch outfit. His shoulder does not have the Ultramarine colors, which means he's probably something called a Black Shield. Black Shields don't display what chapter they're from, because a lot of them were sent there for other reasons. Like, they messed up, or they need to reclaim honor, or they need to prove something, and so they're sent there to basically die on their watch. Why or how Titus gets sent from Death Watch back to the Ultramarines, I don't know, but I'm really interested in that. That's some cool lore implications.
I mean, does he get sent back, or do the Ultramarines just happen to show up because the Zerg-like race is trying to get past the wall?
The Tyranids?
Because so you fight them in this game? Isn't that the
main baddies? The main baddies of the Space Marine 2 are Tyranids. One of my favorite armies. I have a Tyranid army. They're really cool. Monster mash. Think Zerg. Zerg is a good parallel to them. The Hive Fleet invades. Apparently, the Ultramarines are there in force this time. It looks like it's more than just the three of you. They're all Primaris. It looks like it's just going to be more of that cool, lore-accurate action. But then the multiplayer, PvE, looks fantastic. And you've got 6 classes. And the classes all look really cool and interesting. Specifically for people who play the tabletop, because these classes are taken directly from models and roles in the Space Marine line. The Assault Marine, based off the Jump Pack Intercessor Assault unit, or the next class is the Vanguard. The Vanguard, it is based off of the Vanguard Marine line, but specifically, it appears to be a Reaver. They're the ones with that skull-looking helmet. After that, you have the Bulwark, which seems to be based off of the Primaris Blade Guard units, which carry really cool relic shields and the power swords. They really live up to that knight in shining armor fantasy. The next class is going to be the Sniper. They're based off of the Eliminator intercessors. So they're going to have bolt sniper rifles. On the tabletop, you could load different ammunition into those depending on... Like, one of theirs was a sniper grenade round that did AoE damage when you fired it. It was really cool. You also get access to the Las Fusel, which is basically a laser cannon that's got a sniper scope on it. The last class is going to be the Heavy. They're going to be based off of the Heavy Gravis Intercessors or the Eradicators. Honestly,
Yeah, they sound cool.
all of the classes to me sound really cool to play. I won't know which one I'm really going to be into until I get my hands on them, but they all
I
seem
mean, yeah,
really
that's
cool.
going to be the ultimate thing right there, is actually trying them out for yourself and actually seeing them in action or whatever.
Right. There is a PvP mode called Eternal War, which I think is 5 on 5 or 6 on 6, which is pretty cool because there's 6 classes. So if you want, I don't know if you can, I don't know if you're locked into a class, if you can run multiple of the same classes. That'll be something interesting. What is really cool is in the PvP mode, you play as Chaos Space Marines on the other side, and I'm wondering what kind of customization they offer for that. Because in the gameplay reveals from PvP, you had Alpha Legion, you had a guy in corn armor with the big crest on his helmet, you had a Plague Marine with a shield, and oh my gosh, everything looks so cool.
What's Alpha Legion?
We don't talk about Alpha Legion now.
The teal one.
They're the teal one.
With the metallic teal?
Yes. That with
Okay,
the
they're the ones I
Hydra.
like, because, yeah, they look dope as hell.
Yeah, they're traitors. They're bad guys, we think.
I mean,
Maybe.
everyone's pretty much bad in Warhammer, so that's why I like them.
That's the way
They're all
to do
various
it.
levels of bad guys. So, like,
Everyone, there are no good guys in Warhammer 40k. That is I know you don't know much about the lore, but that is the correct answer to that question.
just find the ones you like and stick with them.
There you go. Guys, whatever color or cool little gubbins you want, that's the one for you. That's it.
Right? That's why there's so many of them. I'm glad I could come in, not know a damn thing, and play Peacemaker.
There you go. There you go. Mending bridges. If you do not subscribe to this channel, the Emperor of Mankind will cry, which is impressive because he doesn't have tear ducts.